The wind howled through the abandoned valley as if carrying with it the forgotten cries of the past, sweeping dust across the cracked stones where legends once walked, and in the middle of that desolate silence stood Ahran, a young wanderer who had spent more nights under the open sky than inside any shelter, his cloak torn from travel, his eyes weary yet burning with the fierce determination of someone who had lost too much to turn back now. He tightened the strap of the small leather satchel at his side, the only object left from his father, a symbol he barely understood but carried with him as though his own heartbeat depended on it, for inside that satchel lay a map so old that even scholars avoided deciphering it, a map his father had claimed led not to treasure or glory but to the truth that decides the fate of every living soul. And though Ahran was young, he was not foolish enough to believe every whispered prophecy, but he could not shake the words his father had spoken during his final breath, "Find the hidden dawn, before the shadows swallow the world." Those words carved themselves into Ahran's memory like inscriptions into stone, driving him forward through endless nights and harsh storms, pushing him past hunger and exhaustion until he found himself here, staring into the valley known in ancient texts as the Rift of Echoes, where it was said time itself trembled at the edges, where the air was so heavy it felt like every breath carried the weight of 1,000 unlived futures. Ahran's boots crunched softly on the ground as he stepped deeper, each movement echoing unnaturally as though invisible watchers recorded his presence, and though fear tugged at the back of his mind, he forced his breaths to steady, gripping the small dagger at his waist, the only weapon he possessed after losing his sword in the ambush 2 nights prior, an ambush orchestrated not by bandits but by the infamous Wraith Guard, soldiers of the unseen ruler known only as the Veiled Monarch, whose shadowy influence stretched across kingdoms like a silent plague, controlling kings, armies, and even knowledge itself, especially knowledge of the map Ahran carried. He still remembered the night they came, flames rising into the sky, screams mixing with the crackle of burning wood, and through the chaos, his father pushing him toward the forest with those final desperate instructions, "Run, never let them take the map," followed by a cough soaked with blood, and Ahran did run, feeling every heartbeat shattering as he left behind the only family he ever knew. Since then, every sunrise felt like a countdown, a reminder that the monarch's reach was growing, that while Ahran traveled alone, the world around him darkened with each passing day. The villages he encountered whispered of vanishing rivers, of forests turning to stone, of children dreaming the same nightmare of a massive shadow stretching across the sky, and though Ahran pretended not to believe in omens, a part of him felt a cold truth. Something ancient was awakening, something his father had feared more than death, something tied to the hidden dawn. As he descended further, the valley walls seemed to pulse faintly with an energy older than memory, carved runes flickering like embers caught between life and death, and when Ahran brushed his fingertips against one symbol, the air shivered, sending a tremor up his arm as though the valley itself recognized him. He stumbled back, heart racing, yet as he steadied himself, a low, resonant hum rose from the ground, followed by a whisper, faint but unmistakably real, calling his name. "Ahran." He froze, breath snagging in his throat. The whisper came again, threading through the wind like silk laced with sorrow, and though it terrified him, it carried warmth. A voice he had feared he would never hear again, his father's. Trembling, Ahran stepped forward, his voice barely forming the word, "Father." But before he could speak again, the ground split open with a deafening crack, light erupting in a spiraling pillar that illuminated the valley like a second sun, and from the center of the light emerged a figure formed entirely of shifting dust and glowing fragments of memory, its shape flickering like a half-forgotten dream. Ahran shielded his eyes, heart pounding, and as the figure stabilized, he saw not his father but a guardian, an ancient sentinel with eyes like molten gold and a voice layered with centuries of knowledge. "Bearer of the Dawn Map," the guardian thundered, "your arrival signals the beginning of the world's reckoning." Ahran shook his head, overwhelmed, demanding answers, but the guardian raised a hand, silencing him with a gesture that rippled through the air like a command to reality itself, and explained that the monarch's corruption had seeped beyond kingdoms into the very essence of the earth, that the balance of creation wavered, and only the one chosen by the Dawn Map could restore it. But before the guardian could reveal more, the wind twisted violently, the light dimmed, and a suffocating darkness crawled across the valley floor as if alive, swallowing the edges of the world, and from its depths emerged chilling whispers that belonged to no human tongue. The guardian's eyes widened in alarm, and with urgent force he thrust the map symbol on Ahran's satchel, causing it to glow with blinding brilliance. "Run," the guardian commanded, voice cracking with urgency. "They have found you." Ahran's legs moved on instinct, sprinting toward the ridge as the darkness consumed everything behind him, yet even as he fled, his father's voice echoed once more across the collapsing valley, "The hidden dawn sleeps within you." Those words ignited something fierce within Ahran, something he didn't understand yet but felt pulsing like a second heartbeat. He tightened his grip on the satchel and vowed to uncover the truth, no matter the cost, unaware that beyond the ridge, beyond the dangers chasing him, a destiny older than the world itself was preparing to awaken, and his journey had only just begun. And as the sky cracked with thunder and shadows spilled across the horizon like ink, Ahran whispered to himself that this story, his story, was meant to be seen, heard, and remembered, urging every brave soul who walked beside him, even those watching from afar, to stand with him, to follow the journey, and to never miss what comes next, for the path ahead was dark but the dawn was rising, and those who wished to witness the legend unfold should subscribe, stay, and walk with him into the heart of the unknown. Night fell over the western ridge like a curtain of ink poured across the sky, and Ahran staggered through the dense forest beyond the valley, his breath ragged, his legs trembling from the violent escape, as though the darkness he had outrun still clung to his skin, whispering threats he wasn't ready to face. Leaves crackled beneath his boots, branches snagged his cloak, and even the moon seemed hesitant to shine through the canopy, as if the forest itself knew the danger stalking him from the shadows. Yet he pressed forward, guided not by sight but by a strange pull, an invisible thread tugging him deeper into the unknown, toward a fate he hadn't chosen but could no longer escape. And though he wished for rest, for a moment to breathe, he knew the Wraith Guard would not stop, not after sensing the Guardian's awakening and the surge of power that had burst from the dawn map, for the Monarch's elite soldiers were not mere warriors of flesh and bone, but extensions of the Monarch's will. Their bodies twisted by arcane shadows, their eyes hollow, their hunger endless, and Ahran could almost feel them now, moving through the darkness like wolves who had tasted the scent of destiny and refused to lose their prey again. As he reached a small clearing lit faintly by moonlight, Ahran dropped to his knees, gripping the earth to steady his spinning vision, and for a moment, the world fell silent, until a faint glow pulsed from his satchel, the map shimmering through the leather as if alive, calling, warning, or pleading. He unwrapped it carefully, and the ancient parchment unfolded with a soft sigh, releasing a warm light that contrasted sharply with the cold night breeze. But what startled him most was that the map had changed, its lines shifting like rivers in motion, forming new pathways, new symbols that flickered like stars trapped on parchment. Ahran stared, confused, whispering, "Why now?" As though the map would answer, but before he could study it further, a low growl echoed from the tree line, followed by the rustle of leaves disturbed by something far heavier than wind. Ahran's hand darted instinctively to his dagger, though he knew it was laughably small against whatever hunted him, and his heartbeat thundered in his ears as a shadow emerged, massive, hunched, and breathing like a creature forged from the void itself. But just as panic surged, a hand gripped his shoulder from behind, pulling him aside with unexpected force, and before he could react, a bolt of brilliant silver light shot across the clearing, striking the beast and sending it sprawling back with a roar that shook the trees. Ahran turned sharply to see a cloaked figure standing behind him, a woman, tall and fierce-eyed, her hair braided with silver threads that shimmered like moonlight, and in her hand she held a bow unlike any Ahran had seen, its string glowing as though woven from starlight itself. She didn't waste time on introductions, instead planting herself between him and the beast, firing arrow after arrow, each shot bursting into radiant sparks that seared through the creature's shadowed flesh. The beast lunged again, but she moved with sharp precision, flipping over its claws and sinking a final arrow into its skull, where it dissolved into a cloud of black mist that scattered into the night. Only when silence returned did she turn to him, pulling back her hood to reveal sharp, angular features and eyes that glowed faintly with a blue ethereal light, eyes that seemed to see both the world around her and something far beyond it. "You're Ahran," she said, not asked, but stated as though she had known him her entire life. Ahran stepped back cautiously, clutching the map to his chest, and demanded to know who she was, how she knew his name, and why she interfered in something she couldn't understand. But the woman merely wiped the shadow residue from her blade with calm control, replying, "Your coming was foretold the moment the valley split open. Every guardian across the realm felt it. The monarch felt it, and now, so have I." Her voice carried both authority and an undercurrent of urgency, as though each word pushed the world closer to a line that should never be crossed. She introduced herself as Lysandra of the Lumincrest Order, protectors of the ancient balance, one of the last groups resisting the monarch's rise, though she admitted that even her order was dwindling, hunted, and broken. "The monarch seeks the dawn map," she warned, "not to restore the world, but to consume the dawn itself." Ahran frowned, confused, feeling frustration knotting inside him. He demanded to know why everyone spoke in riddles, why he was expected to carry a burden he couldn't understand, why the world suddenly saw him as some chosen savior when he was just a Wanderer who couldn't even save his own father. Lysandra paused, her expression softening for the first time, and she knelt beside him, resting a hand on the ground near the glowing map. Because the map chose you, she said gently, and because your father wasn't just a wanderer, he was the last of the Dawnbearers, the ones who once held the power to summon the real dawn, the dawn that shaped the first age of the world. His bloodline ended with you, unless you choose to awaken what sleeps within you. Her words struck Ahran like a blow, leaving his thoughts spiraling. He wanted to deny her, to claim she was wrong, but in the deepest corner of his heart, something stirred, an ember long buried. Before he could respond, the ground trembled violently, and a distant horn sounded through the trees, a slow, haunting note that made the leaves shiver. Lysandra's eyes widened. The Wraith Guard, she whispered. They're close, too close. She grabbed Ahran's wrist and pulled him into motion. Come, if they catch us in the open, we're dead. They plunged into the forest, weaving between ancient trunks as the horn echoed again, louder this time, followed by the crack of snapping branches and the sinister thrum of blades slicing through the air. The Monarch's soldiers were coming, drawn not just by their pursuit but by the power radiating from the map. As they ran, Ahran glanced at Lysandra, noticing how her breath grew uneven, how her steps faltered every few strides, as though she hid a wound beneath her cloak, and despite fear clawing at him, he tightened his grip on her arm to steady her. She shot him a surprised look, but there was no time for words. The forest ahead began to glow with a faint golden hue, an unnatural light that pulsed like a heartbeat, illuminating a massive ancient archway covered in vines and runes that matched the symbols on the dawn map. There, Lysandra gasped, a sanctuary portal, if we can reach it, but before she finished, a spear of shadow shot through the air, striking the tree beside Ahran and exploding into a burst of dark energy that sent shockwaves through the clearing. Ahran felt the world tilt as he stumbled forward, gripping the glowing map as if it were the last anchor keeping him from falling into oblivion. From the shadows behind them, figures emerged, tall, armored in black metal that devoured light, their eyes glowing crimson like embers of dying stars, the Wraith Guard at last taking form before them. Their leader stepped forward, towering over the others, his voice like a blade scraping against stone. Hand over the map, child, and we may allow your death to be swift. Ahran felt terror freeze his veins, but Lysandra stepped in front of him, her bow glowing brighter than ever, her voice sharp with defiance. You will not touch him. The air crackled as light clashed with shadow, and the first battle of Ahran's destiny began, not with glory, but with fear, desperation, and the unshakable truth that from this moment on, the world would never be the same. And though Ahran's heart pounded with doubt, he whispered silently to those watching his journey from afar that this was only the beginning, urging them to stay, to witness every rise and fall of the path ahead, and to subscribe so they would never miss a single heartbeat of the legend unfolding before them.